Hello, and welcome to the U Hour brought to you by the University of Miami. I am Marie Sarkeesian, your host, and we have with us Florence Perotti, who is our producer on the computer. The U Hour is a one-hour show designed to inform you about the credit and non-credit educational programs given to you by the University of Miami. All of our programs can be found on our website, which is www.educationmiami.com. If you are interested in going back to school to continue your education or to help boost your resume for a job or for a promotion, the University of Miami has a lot to offer you. Today we have with us guests from the Bachelor of General Studies program. We have Angela Siza, who is a current BGS student. We have LaToya Williams, who is with us from the Financial Aid Office. We have Megan Garber, who is the Assistant Director of the Career Development and Outreach. We have with us Dr. Dexter Callender, who is a UM faculty. We have with us Louise Driscoll, who is the Assistant Dean of Collegiate Studies, and Carol Coleman, who is the BGS Program Director. Thank you guys all for coming today. And let's just start out by explaining a little bit about the BGS program. Carol, would you mind?
Sure, I'm glad you asked. The Bachelor of General Studies program is an interdisciplinary degree program that's geared towards adults that, for whatever reason, delayed their education and now want to return to school and finish their bachelor's degree. Also, adults who want to even start the degree program. It's a very unique program where the students are able to design their own area of concentration, so they get to focus on courses that's geared toward their personal goals or their career goals.
Excellent. And when did the BGS program start? Well, Louise, why don't you jump in there?
Yes, I have the historical perspective on this one. It's an interesting story. The BGS started first in 1971, and for about almost 20 years, I think. It was slow growing. But in the late 80s, about 88 or 89, a Dean Emeritus from the College of Arts and Sciences, Dean Arthur Brown, came over here with a specific desire to really renovate and renew this program, because at that time there was a great deal of interest in the non-traditional student coming back to school all over the United States. There was a great awareness that there were people that hadn't finished their degrees that needed special programs, perhaps special financial assistance, and who really wanted to finish their degrees. So there are a lot of other programs in the United States, at Harvard, at Penn, at Columbia, that were inaugurating programs like this at that time. So Dean Brown came here and actually was the Director of Collegiate Studies at that time, and he helped us to really formulate it again, and it started again with a real strong start in fall of 1988. And we've been going great guns ever since. The program is very successful. We think it's very, it's what the adult population needs at this time. So.
Now, I know it is, it's a liberal arts degree. Is it abbreviated BGS or BAGS?
Oh, well, we like to call it BGS. It is a Bachelor of Arts. And what that is, as distinguished from a Bachelor of Science degree, is that among the general education credits that a student would take for the first couple of years, we have a higher percentage of liberal arts or humanities than does a BS, which would have a higher amount of math and science courses. But every UM degree, as well as this one, is 120 credits, with about 60 credits of general education. Again, ours with a heavier concentration on humanities, and then the upper level 60 credits. Which is when Carol mentioned the area of concentration. That's 30 credits at the upper level that the student designs him or herself, along with elective credits and along with our interdisciplinary colloquia, which I think we'll talk about later.
All right, now people that are interested in the BGS program are usually adults who didn't finish their degree for whatever reason and now need to go back and finish that degree, usually because of job, either getting a new job or getting that promotion. And I know with today's economy, with it being down, not a whole lot of people have a lot of money, there's been a lot of financial aid questions that have been coming to us. And so I wanted to kind of clarify what services we offer with financial aid, which is why we brought LaToya with us today. So first of all, a lot of people are asking about grants and loans. Can you tell us more about which grants and loans are available?
Sure, I'll be glad to. Okay, here at the University of Miami, our financial aid office is very devoted to assisting the students. We do our best to make sure everyone gets as much financial assistance as possible. For that reason, we pretty much speak to each student, see what their needs are. So once they do complete the FAFSAs, and we do receive their FAFSAs in, the BGS program is a special and unique program, and there are Pell Grants available for that program. Some students think that there's no Pell Grant since it's limited to certain number of credits, 6 to 9 credits. They feel they're not eligible. However, they are. They're eligible. They're going to get a prorated amount of the Pell Grant based on the hours of 9 credits. If they choose to take 6 credits, they will get Pell Grant for those 6 credits.
Could you tell us what the Pell Grant is?
Sure. The Pell Grant is a grant offered to the student by the federal government based on their need. Like it says, grants. It's free money. It does not have to be repaid. And it's given to the students every fall, every spring semester based on eligibility. In addition to that, since the BGS program is a special program, if they choose to go to school in the summer, whatever money of that Pell Grant that was not used in the fall or spring semester hours can also be rolled over to the summer. So that can assist them in taking summer courses. So that's one of the great benefits of the Pell Grant program. In addition, they may need additional aid such as loans. The federal government have 2 unique loans which are subsidized and unsubsidized. The subsidized loans are very popular. These are great loans because it's 5.6%, and the federal government does pay the interest rate for the students as long as they're currently enrolled for at least half-time hours according to the BGS program. That's great because it's 6 hours and they can get the loan for that amount of classes. In addition, there's an unsubsidized loan. That loan, right now, it's 6.8%, and however, the federal government does not pay the interest rate for that loan, but it does provide that extra boost and cushion that the students may need in order to get the additional financial assistance. The federal government also provide other alternative loans and other means of them compensating the additional costs. And not only does the federal government provide assistance, the University of Miami also does. They have a great monthly payment plan that's incorporated that works in addition with the federal government assistance in order to compensate and assist students in meeting their financial needs.
Angela, I know you're a current student.
Yes.
Were you able to get any grants or loans from the University of Miami or from the government? Or
Yes. And nobody could have been in a more needy situation than me. I'm a single mom. I have 2 kids, and yet determined. So I decided to come to UM and sort of throw myself on the mercy of the university and see how we could make this happen, because I really didn't have any background in this kind of the first generation college student. So I learned so much through going to financial aid and coming back to visit the advisor here, and how it could be done, and it can be done. I was shocked and amazed and happy, and I still pinch myself that I'm here, but we were able to put together between the grants, the loans, and also my advisor's keeping me in touch with whatever scholarships that she learns about so that I can apply for those, and I have. And so yes, it's there, it's available. It takes some homework, takes some research, but it can happen. I'm proof of it.
I'm glad you mentioned scholarships. That was going to be my next question. What scholarships are available that might be applicable to BGS students?
Well, we have the OSHA Reentry Scholarship, and that scholarship is for eligible students that's in the BGS program who, for whatever reason, their college education was interrupted and needs
Which I received.
Yeah,
I did.
And needed assistance. We select students based on eligibility and GPA requirement, and we look for students always to apply. Currently, we have some OSHA funds available, and we want our students that's currently in the program to apply for the scholarship, but the money is available for students who meet the GPA requirement. It's designed to help students who, if it wasn't for the scholarship or the additional funds, they wouldn't be able to complete their education. So the scholarship is very handy and helpful, as Angela said, and it helps students to pursue their dream.
And I believe these grants and scholarships and loans and payment plans are all available on our websites. Right. BGS has an area on their website, and also the financial aid office is usually, correct me if I'm wrong, listing current scholarships, current loans, and keeping up to date. If somebody, I know it's very personable with financial aid because everybody's situation is different. Where can they go to get more information for either one-on-one sessions or just to do their own research?
Right. They're quite welcome to come by the financial aid office. We have tons of advisors available to assist them on a one-on-one basis. We look at their financial need, we look at their financial award package, and the majority of the time, once we look at that package, there are errors. And by us correcting those errors, they're eligible for more additional assistance, which is a great help to those students. And the advisors are very clear and very informative, and we stay on top of our students. I'm the liaison for the BGS program, so I work one-on-one with all of those particular students, and we're very familiar with this type of program, so we're always able to help them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Marie, there's also another feature of the BGS program that's been in effect from the very beginning when the university created its special outreach to this population, and that is because the adult student typically doesn't have as much financial aid or does not have mom and dad particularly paying for their education. Mm-hmm. The university has really embedded basically a scholarship within the program just for being a BGS student, because the rate for BGS is about 1/3 of the regular rate for the University of Miami students. So it's a terrific opportunity for anybody who's wanted to finish their degree, and especially somebody who really wants that prestigious UM degree, mm-hmm. that it's not at the rate that the traditional student has mm-hmm. to pay, and yet they have access to all of the resources, including the faculty and courses at any time of the day, and all of the resources like the Writing Center and the library and everything. Our adult education program is really atypical in that the students in this program have full access to all of the University of Miami. They don't have to just come at night, and they don't have special faculty. They have the absolute finest, best faculty that the University of Miami has hired. So it's really great. There's that embedded scholarship that everybody gets because they don't pay the rate that the regular UM student mm-hmm. gets. So while we were talking about scholarships, I wanted to mention that.
Mm-hmm. And I know I had mentioned the economy a little bit before. I'm curious, have you noticed there's more of available scholarships or grants or loans since Obama's been president? Because
I've noticed that there are more financial students come into our office with more financial need. Mm-hmm. And because of that, there are the Pell Grant have been increased under the Obama Association, and the students are taking advantage of that, especially our BGS students, since they're eligible for it. The ones that are eligible, since they don't take the full 12 credit courses, the remaining money of their Pell Grant rolls over to their summer classes, and they're really taking full advantage of that. So that's really excellent for them.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. So when I know there are deadlines for most of these things. When is the deadline to apply for scholarships or loans?
Well, pretty much we ask for February 1st, but some students decide to wait until after they complete their tax return. We still accept them. March 1st is also a preferred deadline, but we're always welcome all FAFSA. We don't want to discourage anyone. Just turn it in. If you need any assistance at all, we will encourage you and just assist you in whatever need you may have.
Is there a difference between students who are registering for fall or for spring?
Not with the BGS program. They seem to feel that they get more assistance in the fall, but with this special program, they typically are rolling over to get in pretty much the same assistance. So, but we still encourage you, try to get that FAFSA in as early as possible. Contact us, reach out to us. We are here to help every student, and we want to make sure that everyone get as much aid as possible.
Mm-hmm. And I know you're not bragging about yourself, but you have a world of knowledge about everything. I know you're very creative, and so is the rest of the financial aid when it comes to dealing with students one-on-one and making sure that all their needs are met and that they don't have any errors on their applications. So thank you for coming. I want to move on and talk a little bit about our faculty now at the BGS, assuming that everyone gets their financial aid and they get applied and they're accepted and they're now here. So what type of classes do you teach, Dexter? And are they all for the BGS program?
No, my appointment is in the Department of Religious Studies in the College of Arts and Sciences. I teach world religions, which I've taught in the BGS program. My area of specialization is religion in the ancient world, in ancient Near East in particular, ancient Mesopotamia, ancient Egypt, Syria, Palestine, dealing with the lens of the Bible, so to speak. So that's primarily where I do my work. The courses that I've taught beyond that for the BGS, I did a colloquium a few years ago on the mythic imagination is what we titled it. We looked at ancient narratives and from Mesopotamia and Egypt, and how some of those narratives show up in biblical traditions, and how some of those mythic archetypes show up in modern films. So we looked at things like Kill Bill and AI, the Steven Spielberg film, things like that.
Do you find that there was a difference in your non-traditional BGS students compared to your regular UM students?
Well, the biggest difference is obviously
How do I say this?
well,
Maturity.
maturity. Having been out of school for a little while, having normally working full time, having families, having other priorities and distractions that make it a little more difficult to maintain a heavy load of reading and the like. Most students come in really excited and ready to go, but at the same time, when you have 2 sick children and bills to pay and all the rest, it can be challenging. But for the most part, the maturity factor is something that really proves to enhance the education of non-traditional students, having a little more perspective and having thought about certain things that they wouldn't necessarily have thought of as traditional undergrads at 19 or 20 years old.
That's interesting that you bring that up, because I'm assuming that a lot of BGS students may have been in the field that they're studying prior to being in class, so they might be able to bring more knowledge to the classroom than a traditional student who's just coming out of high school. Correct?
Absolutely.
Totally correct. The faculty tell us again and again how much they enjoy having us in their classes, because we generally have all these experiences that we bring in, that we share, that we're interested in the subject matter, and we're there because we want to be, and so I feel very valued as a non-traditional student.
Do you have classes that are mixed together with BGS students and traditional students?
Yes and no. On Saturday, generally speaking, it is non-traditional students, because I'm in the Lockstep program that meets every Saturday. So we are all a non-traditional group. But in other classes, yes, you'll have your traditional students. So there is a mix in there.
I actually had faculty tell me after they taught the BGS colloquia that, and those, by the way, are the upper level interdisciplinary part of the BGS graduation requirement. And students are allowed to pick the topics that they want, because there are colloquia, maybe 4 or 5 each semester. So that gives the student an opportunity to pick a course such as Dexter's that they have an interest in at the upper level, and they are conducted like seminars more. So that what I've had faculty tell me, one in particular that I think made me feel really good about the program and about the colloquia in particular, is that he said after teaching that he remembered why he got into teaching. Mm-hmm. And I just thought that was terrific, because he said it's the energy in the classroom and the feeling that with adult students you're creating collaboratively something together in terms of new knowledge. And it's not, well, I as a faculty am going to just deposit this information that I spent all my professional life gathering, and I'm just going to deposit it into your empty brain. Mm-hmm. I don't mean yours, but the idea that a traditional student is really more of a tabula rasa than an adult student. And so maybe the professional experience is not the same for faculty. They're glad that they're teaching the younger students coming up, because that's part of their transfer of their knowledge that they find important. But there's something additional that happens with the adult student that is, I was just so thrilled to hear that,
Mm-hmm. Could you explain a little bit more about the colloquia, what it is, and which ones are available to students?
Sure. The colloquia, when our students first come in, they're like, first they usually mangle the name, because it's essentially Latin. But I prefer to just say that it's like an interdisciplinary minor that we have. there's a lot of choice about it, but we provide every semester between 3 and 5 different courses from which the student can select. And they range, this is where the interdisciplinary part comes from. They range from science to humanities to business. And so a student can select what they find personally and professionally, intriguing. What's great about those is that they are not at the lower level where you're just getting introductory knowledge about, religion or history or natural science. But it's the opportunity to go into a subject at a deeper level with a subject expert, and they're really designed around the whole way that adult students typically learn, and that is to take all of their life experiences into the classroom and try to make linkages between what's being presented and what they already know about their life and what they already know, in terms of knowledge. And that creates a kind of nice combustion. And I think that really undergirds the whole idea of this being a liberal arts degree, because it's not only that we have some extra humanities at the introductory level, but we also provide this interdisciplinary minor, which has a lot of choice in it, but it's still the opportunity to delve into some subjects that people wouldn't otherwise. A course like acting for the non-actor, that came out of the theater department. And Dexter spoke about his, and you taught one once, besides the mythical imagination, you taught one on angels.
Oh, right.
Which was so interesting because what we like to do in colloquia is combine a historical perspective with something that's happening now. So we try to bring as much as we can into a contemporary focus. We've had courses on immigration, for instance, in the last couple of years. We had a course during the last election of communication. It wasn't about parties or anything, but it was more about how each point of view politically was communicating that through the media. So that was very, topical. But Dexter's course on angels, you know how angels have become like people wear angels on their jackets, and they talk about angels and the presence of angels, and they'll call each other, "You're the angel that came into my life." There's a lot of interest in angels. But what Dexter did was go all the way back to the first time when people talked about angels and what have angels meant in our understanding of the other, world besides what we see and touch and hear here. And that was, I think, was really fascinating, because people can be attached to something like angels but not really, know the background. So that's what colloquia are like. They could be radically different, but upper level study in areas that the student selects themselves. And I'll tell you, students come first of all with this, what is colloquia? But as soon as they take one, they're like, what's the colloquia for next term? Because they really like the courses.
You mentioned that they kind of get developed from current events, but I'm wondering how the Angels course was thought up and developed as a colloquia.
Well, that particular course was sort of at the height of all sort of angel craze. You turn on Oprah or anything, there's angels everywhere.
Exactly.
And so that was the context for that. The colloquium I'm teaching now, The Bible and the Problem of Language, is really coming out of a book that I'm finishing right now that deals with this issue of ancient attitudes toward language and how it relates to religious experience. So my student Angela's in my course right now. They're in the middle of helping me think through and finish up that project. So this just happens to deal with what I'm working on right now. So it goes directly to what Louise had spoken about earlier.
I'm excited to hear that she's in your class because of my next question. I was going to ask you, do the BGS students somehow mold future colloquia classes?
In terms of topic, or in terms of how they're taught?
Because before we were mentioning how the BGS students sometimes bring more to the class than a traditional student because they have their own personal experiences.
Oh, right.
I wonder if, because there are colloquia that are developed based on current topics, if they, after a class is finished, somehow bring more to the class and maybe change it around for future students.
Well, I can speak. I can't speak as much to the selection of what is offered in the future, but with regard to my own participation, I go in and come out having sort of soaked up everything that has gone on in all of the discussions. And I absolutely I take that into my work, and I take that into how I frame whatever I'll do next time as well.
Absolutely. It sounds very enlightening.
It is. It is. It's a great experience, learning so much. And he writes in Hebrew on the board. We were like, oh my gosh, he's writing in Hebrew. So, very impressive.
Now, do you tend to give letters of recommendations for jobs for students after they're finished?
Absolutely. When students ask for recommendations, depending on how many courses I've had them in and my level of interaction with them. Some students I get to know a little more from coming in for office hours, etc. Whatever I can say to help frame them positively, I'm always happy to do.
Great. And do you have any other little projects that might turn into future colloquia? Little secret?
Well, I'm also finishing up editing a volume of essays by a number of internationally known religious scholars on, again, religion and language, and that volume is titled Myth and Scripture, Contemporary, Contemporary, wait a minute, Contemporary Perspectives on Religion, Language, and Imagination. So I'm going to continue to sort of exhaust this linguistic dimension, thinking about religion with respect to the language angle a little more. So I'm sure perhaps the next one might touch on this in one way or another.
All right, take notes, you two.
I like the contemporary perspectives on, because, I think we are living in a time where people are a little bit more spiritual seeking than ever before. However they define that, and to be able to connect the contemporary with the problem of language all the way back is probably very enlightening. I've had students tell me in advising that their perspective on whatever the topic was in the interdisciplinary colloquia has changed the way they think. Like you say, you're changed by the experience, but the students are changed, sometimes in a very interesting way. One course we had was about the business of making motion pictures, and I attended some of those classes, and I heard from some students that from then on, when you go to the movies, you're thinking different things. Okay. And there was one that had something to do with acting too. It was the actor as storyteller, and it was how to evaluate an actor when you go to a movie. What is it that you say, oh, that's a great actor? And it usually is the ability beyond words to express emotion and feeling. So when you see a movie where somebody seems a little stilted, it's usually because they're not able to show on their lips and in their expression in their eyes, or even the way their body is positioned, you're not able to feel what they're trying to convey. And when you do feel that, you call that a good actor. And what they did in that class was make people experiment with conveying emotion without words. How do you hold your lips? How do you hold your eyes? Until they began to understand it. I know after that experience, just through my students and a couple of classes, when I'm in a theater, I'm thinking different things. So
Absolutely.
it really is, they're great.
If I can add just something to what we're discussing, not only that, but in our classes we're doing a lot of writing, and thankfully we get the choice sometimes of topics. And the group that we're in, they tend toward topics that are passionate for them. And so of this group that I'm a part of, we have learned so much about the passion that each person is involved in. One person is involved in the environment, one person is involved in recovery, one person is involved in food issues, and I'm always about education. So I guarantee we know where each other is coming from, and we're learning so much from each other's essays that we're writing, we're presenting, and the passion that person has. So, in fact, the other day in class, somebody's going to make a point about education, and before he even said it, he said, "Angela, you're going to like this one." But this is where it's in. When I see food issues I think, oh, Monica has to see this, and so we're impacting each other so much just as through our own research and writings. So we're not the same people anymore at all.
Angela, you always seem so excited when you're talking about it. I'm curious, how did you find out about the BGS program, and what made you decide to apply?
Well, I remember the moment clearly. I was driving down the street and a commercial came on the radio. And it was talking about this very program. And I pulled over and grabbed a piece of paper and I said, open house, December, whatever date it was. And I checked my schedule for work. I said, I'm off. Yay, I can go. So this was just it felt like the doors were just opening to this experience. And I have visited other colleges in the vicinity. I've been to several other colleges, inquired, asked. The programs were never right, the locations were never right, the times were never right. But this one, everything was right. And it was like it was invented for me. So
it sounds like you were looking for this program, but was there something going on with your job which was motivating you to look for a finish your degree type of program?
Absolutely. I had a great job. I was a very well-respected job in my chosen career, but I knew that I was hitting a ceiling and that in order to go forward, I needed that degree that I had never finished. I was amazed that I got as far as I did without it, but I'm determined, and I tell people now that as I go into other career opportunities, they're going to have to come up with another reason to reject me rather than the degree, because I'm going to have it. So it's absolutely necessary, and especially in my field of public relations and communications.
Were you trying to apply for a promotion or apply for something else where they were just right off the bat saying, no, you don't have a degree?
Right off the bat, they were saying you don't have a degree. There were many opportunities in Miami that I was looking at, but that degree was always right there. I would still apply, thinking, I'll get them with my experience, but it just got harder and harder as the years were going by to get past that requirement. So
were they saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, if you had a degree, we would have loved to have had you"?
Because absolutely. There was a government job with the Federal Reserve. I was biting at and I had a phone interview, but the gentleman said, "I'm sorry, everything's great except you don't have the degree." And I said, "Dang, that's not going to happen anymore." Wow. So that's why I pulled the car over that day that I heard that commercial. And it's funny because that's the only day I ever heard that commercial. But it was the moment.
It was your day.
The angels were sending me a message that said, "Go."
And now with her excitement, she's our speaker student speaker for our future and present open houses, because she comes in with that excitement and she kind of gets some of the people off the fence, who's thinking that, do I need to finish this degree? And absolutely, you need to finish your degree. So.
If I can impact anybody positively, that's what I've always been about.
Now, I remember you saying to me earlier that this program somehow mysteriously was written specifically for you.
Feels like it. It does, because I was already in the field of communications, but this major is designed as leadership, policy, and communications. And so I was already 1/3 of that. But as life experience has come my way, I have become more interested in issues and how things are decided in our government. And so I really plan on pursuing the same field, communications, but with regard to something around issues, maybe working for a lobby or a government agency that is doing good. So that's where I'm going with this.
What's been your best experience so far since you've been here?
Wow. Best experience.
Best class, best teacher, personal service.
Well,
anything that comes up.
Everything's been great, but I will tell you one little thing that we talked about previously, that my experience in the Writing for Research class, that we arrived in this group, the students that were interested in the BGS degree, but the first day of class in the Writing for Research class, the teacher was discussing our master's degree programs that we may get into, our PhD programs that we may want to pursue, and how this class is going to help us. And most of us just arrived in this program to get the bachelor's degree. So I know we all sat there at first saying, what is she talking about? Masters and PhDs, but I tell you, by the end of the semester, we were all talking about it. We would leave the classroom going, "Oh, what do you think? What do you think?" And we stood in Starbucks and talked about this message that this teacher is giving us, and it was sinking in to a lot of people. I would not be surprised if at least half this group doesn't continue on. So I think that was maybe the most impactful experience so far that I can specifically tell you about.
Right. I know you mentioned earlier when we were talking about financial aid that you had received some. Could you explain a little bit more about the process between when you decided you were going to apply and in between, how you received your specific financial aid?
Oh, well, I was so scared when it just say those two words, financial aid. But it's really just sort of a process of putting one foot in front of the other. First you do this, and then you do the next thing, and little by little you find that you're getting it done. And of course, the FAFSA was the first leap, so once that was over, I went, oh gosh, I have filled out a FAFSA form. And so that was the first miracle. But so from then on, I just, as I said, put one foot in front of the other. And I know a lot of people do things online, but I come in all the time. I see the advisor face to face. I see come into financial aid face to face. Because I believe in that experience, and that's the best way to communicate. And I tell them I need a lot of hand holding. So these folks that are helping me, personal little me, are being very giving me the attention that because nobody would need it more than me. So if I can do this, I feel anybody can, because it was a mystery to me, and because I never went through this process before. And so it's doable. It's a step-by-step process, and I think it's a very personal process in terms of going into the offices and meeting the people and establishing those relationships so that you can get the hand-holding you need.
I can't imagine that it would just be you that would feel the need for that personal service. I would assume most everyone would want that. And
that's one of the benefits of the Bachelor of General Studies programs. We have advisors here that give you that personal one-on-one attention, refer you to offices needed, the resources that we have here on campus, and ensure that whatever question or concern you have, that is taken care of and taken care of quickly. So
absolutely. And Angela, what are your goals career-wise once you get your degree? Are you going to continue on with more school, or are you just going to go right back into the job market?
Well, I'm sure I'll be going right back into the job market immediately. As I said, I'm hoping that I'll either be working in a government agency, or maybe a lobby, or a foundation. And then at some point, I do plan on returning to continue on my next degree. But I did hear that there's something called a certificate program. So that might be an intermediate step between a master's and the bachelor's. So as you're here, you learn things about what are the little ins and outs and the way things can be done. So we learn from the administration and the faculty, but we also learn from each other, the students talking to each other. So that is good too. So yes, I'm going forward all the way.
Awesome. Yeah, we do have a lot of certificate programs within our own division. If you go to edmiami.com, you'll see all of those. So you can either go back into the job market, you can get a certificate, you can go and get your master's or a PhD if you wanted to. It's all here, and that's why we have our advisors to help you out, to make sure that they give you the best plan that you need.
Right.
So Megan, that's where I go to you, because you are with Career Services. So first of all, could you explain the importance of having a bachelor's degree and applying to that job market? As you could see, Angela was having such a hard time just getting a promotion without it.
I think if you look at the Bureau of Labor Statistics and the trends, more and more people are getting bachelor's degrees today, and they're also earning more over their lifetime in their first job. So a lot of employers will kind of look at that as the basic, one of the prerequisites when they're weeding through resumes. We recruit employers to recruit our students and alumni here at the University of Miami, and for internships, for jobs, that's their first criteria. You have to be pursuing a bachelor's degree. Another thing that you'll kind of see in terms of the importance of it is people with bachelor's degrees tend to have, when they're, like right now there's, I don't know if it's technically a recession or not, but the economy has kind of struggled. The unemployment rates for people with bachelor's degrees is less than those with high school diplomas or associate's degrees. So it definitely gives you more opportunities, as well as if something were to happen in life and you need to relocate, or if you did get laid off, you want to have a degree and experience. And then also, I think a benefit of attending the University of Miami is you can come back to the top of the Career Center and say, I got laid off, can I get some assistance? And we help alumni.
Absolutely. I know it varies from job to job and degree to degree, but there's numbers online that you can look up that say you're more marketable because of this degree than someone who doesn't have it. And it's going to get you into that door. as opposed to just saying, no, I'm sorry, we can't help you, you don't have it, please go back and get your degree and then see me in a couple of years.
Been there, done that.
Well, and a lot of time now, you'll never even get to have that conversation with them because the job market is so competitive. If you don't have the bachelor's degree and that's what they're looking for, they're not going to say, oh, you'd be great, but unless you have a personal relationship with the employer.
Right.
But like you said, it's very important when you enroll in a program like this to go out and research the fields that you're interested in and see what kind of salaries are out there. Do you typically, like if you wanted to be in law, or you need a law degree, which is kind of obvious, but there are other ones where you may not realize a master's degree would really be helpful. So you want to make sure that you, going into something like this, you know that your expectations in terms of future salaries is, if that's what you're going to get. And the Occupational Outlook Handbook, if you want to Google it, it's OOH. You can research all kinds of professions and get average salaries, training, education requirements, that kind of thing.
So what services and resources do the Topple Career Center offer current students at the University of Miami?
All of our, current students, that's our definite target population. We serve undergraduate, graduate students, and alumni. Anything from career assessments. If you know you want to go back to school and maybe you want to change career fields, we have different assessment tests. You can meet with our advisors to go over your results. Obviously, resumes is a big thing. We critique a lot of resumes. We help writing resumes. Interviewing skills. We definitely offer workshops. We do mock interviews. We have lots of events where you can network with employers because once you get your resume and your interviewing skills, you obviously want to have access to different employers. We have career expos, career fairs, industry-specific fairs. We recruit employers to come on campus and interview students. Also, we have a website called Cane Zone where employers will post jobs and internships or part-time jobs for UM students. Only current students and alumni have access to that website. So anything from panel programs too. We'll have alumni come. We have one coming up next month. Off-roading, careers outside of a traditional office setting. We have trailblazing women. Another service that we offer for people who are interested in starting their own business or nonprofit, if that's something that you've been thinking about, or maybe you just want to take it to the next level. As a UM student or alum, you have access to the Launchpad at Topple, which is a resource for entrepreneurs and inventors. So those are just kind of some of the things that we offer.
I actually went to a Launchpad event recently. They had Dana White from the USC there. So they're bringing in people who are there and have done it and are giving back to the students now. So those are definitely something to go check out.
Yeah, no, we have all kinds of programs with Launchpad. That was Global Entrepreneurship Week. They do a whole week with a lot of big name speakers. But it's definitely not just coming into the Career Center when you're getting ready to graduate. It's coming into the Career Center as soon as you start at UM so that you can start networking. That's the number one way that people find their jobs. I'm sure that most of you have kind of experienced that. But also, a big thing is I would imagine that some people out there are thinking about career transitioning, maybe going into a more managerial position or changing fields altogether. Internships are a really good way to kind of help you make that happen because you get to try it out while you're still a student. Because it can be hard to go from maybe you've always been kind of in an assistant position or there's been a roadblock in your career because you don't have a bachelor's degree. Internships can help you kind of start getting that experience before you graduate, and that can kind of help you transition.
Now, you said as soon as you become a student, or any student, freshman through senior year, or BGS, or traditional, non-traditional, they can come in at any time?
Yes, as long as you're a degree-seeking student. So if you're in a certificate program, you wouldn't be eligible for our services, but if you're in a degree-seeking program, like the BGS program, as soon as you start, we encourage you to come in.
Is Topple still available for those students after they graduate?
Everything is available to alumni. We charge a $25 fee for a one-on-one advising appointment. But all of our events, all of our online resources, our walk-in services, everything is available for free except for the one-on-one appointments.
Great. All right, so I just want to ask some general questions. So say someone is listening out there and they say, wow, this is the program for me. What are the requirements for BGS? What are the requirements for the application process?
Well, when they come in for a personal advising session, we encourage them to fill out the application. They need to be at least 22 years or older, or out of high school for 4 years, a U.S. citizen, and not they shouldn't have been in a degree program here for a year at University of Miami. And outside of that, if they meet the GPA requirement of 2.2, a minimum of 2.2, then we can process their application with the Office of Admissions along with their transcripts.
Mm-hmm. Can students, if they were previously enrolled in another college, either at UM or somewhere else, can they transfer their credits?
They can transfer their credits, but if they've been in a degree-seeking program here at UM, they would have to sit out for 1 year. But we can transfer the credits once if they wanted to get into the BGS program.
Okay. I think we have a question from the chat room.
Yes, we do, and it's related to what you were talking about right now. A question was, do you need an AA or an AS to apply?
No, you don't need an AA or AS, but it helps with transferring the credits. The more credits they're able to bring in, that it completes the program, help them complete the program sooner.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you.
And when are the next session of classes available?
The next session starts in summer 1, which is May 21st. So if they're interested in the program, we encourage them to get their applications in. Application process usually takes anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks for processing once they send in the application and transcripts. And so we want enough time to be able to process it and also meet with them one-on-one to determine where they fall into the program.
Mm-hmm. And how long does it take to actually finish the degree once they start?
Well, usually if they come in, it depends on how many credits they transfer in. If it's a new student starting off, it depends on how many credits they take per semester. Mm-hmm. We are a part-time program. Usually our students average about 6 credits per semester, which may bring them around 4 to 6 years of completion. But if they bring in more credits from an AA or AS program, then they can finish in as little as 2.5 years.
Mm-hmm. And if I understood correctly from Louise's explanation of colloquia, you do not declare major, you pick an area of concentration, correct?
Correct.
And is there a process for picking that area of concentration?
Oh, actually there is. It's like an individualized learning contract that the student devises for themselves. So that's one of the best features of the BGS, is that the potential student has only to select 30 credits or 10 courses of upper level, meaning 300 level and higher courses, to meet their own personal and professional needs. So we can have majors or areas of concentration that would be like history and religion, or art history and communication, or public relations and anthropology. The only thing is that if it's sort of a natural linkage that people would think, oh yeah, that goes with that, the student doesn't have to work as hard in creating their rationale, because they do write a 2-page paper explaining how the particular coursework that they have selected hangs together. What is the theme? What is the goal? What are the specific objectives that they hope to achieve by designing this for themselves? So that they undergo a review process. We do help the students along so that they can send a draft to any one of the advisors, and we'll guide them. But it is a very personal process. And when you said, Angela, that you felt like it was designed for you, I was thinking, because of the selection of the colloquia, whatever people want to take to meet those requirements, and because of the way the degree is designed in terms of picking your own area of concentration or major, it really is self-designed. It is designed for people because you have that input that no other student at UM actually has. So. Did that answer your question about colloquia?
Good. Yes, it did. When students graduate, do they often go on either at UM or somewhere else to get masters, do you feel? And is it easy to use that degree to get into the master's program?
I think a lot of students, as Angela talked about, maybe don't come in thinking that they want to go further, but they kind of catch fire in terms of learning. When a student comes here, it's often for a very pragmatic reason. I need this degree, I'm being passed over, or I'm training somebody else who has a degree when they come to my company and they go ahead of me, and this is not a happy feeling. So they come with a very pragmatic, practical goal. I think once in and networking with people and networking with faculty, they catch fire a little bit with the love of learning. And so that's something that I think is germane to why a lot of students will come to me afterwards, or any advisor, and say, tell me about the master's program. Maybe they'll take a year off, maybe they'll enjoy their accomplishment, but a lot of them want to come back to experience that again. I'm going to tell you a quick story that's one of the most satisfying that I've ever had as an advisor. and it kind of deals with this love of learning and how it really changes. Megan, you talked about how adding this to your professional resume is so important. So people really do meet professional goals, but there's a sense in which students are changed personally by the whole learning process, and part of that is why they want to keep going. But I had an experience once where a student needed one more class to finish, and it was a humanities class. And the only class that was, and this was a male student, the only class that was available at the time that he needed it happened to be a women's studies course. Now, there was a little resistance. Now, do I have to take a women's studies course? I'll be the only man in there. What am I going to do? It's going to be terrible. And so I just said, well, of course you have a selection, but I tried to spin it in a different way, like, well, have you ever wanted to give a male opinion, to set these women straight if they're going in a different direction? Well, I said, you would be the absolute expert in that class. Were you to be the only male? I said, you probably won't be, but were you to be the only male, you would be an expert in that class. Well, he was kind of like, well, do I have to? I said, well, it's all about finishing your degree. What do you want to do? Well, he said, okay, I'll take it. So that wasn't the end of the story. The end of the story was when he came back at the end of the semester and he was graduating. He said, Louise, I want to thank you for encouraging me to get into that class. And I said, oh, why? And he said, well, there isn't a brain cell in my head that's in the same place as it was when I started the class. But as a result, my relationship with my mother, my sisters, my wife, my female co-workers, my neighbors has changed all for the better. And I glowed with that because I said, that's why we're here as advisors. That's the kind of growth that we want to see. And so I really think that pursuing a bachelor's degree, particularly the BGS, can meet a professional goal for sure. But it really meets the goal of being a truly educated person who has their life changed by the educational experience. And that was, that must have happened 12 years ago, and I remember it like today because it was so, satisfying to me.
Absolutely, that's a great story. Florence, do we have another question from the chat?
We do, and it's a question about once a student finishes this program, what types of jobs or promotions have our previous students been able to attain by finishing their degree?
Well, we have a couple of students that come back in our alumni that are currently our teachers. They work in the governmental fields. There's one that's now pursuing her master's degree in liberal arts. So the doors are open, depends on what career goals you have or your personal goals. You can go almost anywhere.
That's right. Don't you have an alumni circle for BGS students?
Yes, we do.
Absolutely.
Yes, we do. We encourage all the current students to check it out on the website, as well as when they become graduates to join the alumni circle, because they serve as a wealth of knowledge with the program, as well as can answer that question in the future. What are you doing now? Where you are, like Angela, are you pursuing your master's degree?
Yeah.
And we have a section on our website too. It's hireacane.com, and you can see employers who recruit canes. That's under the Getting Experience section, and that might just help you get an idea of what employers are actively hiring University of Miami students and recruiting on the campus.
Right.
And about the graduate school, we do help students and alumni applying to graduate school. So whether it's finding schools to apply to, writing your personal statement, we definitely help with that as well. And alumni too.
Great resource.
I'd like to add something if I could, and I did mention this at Open House recently, that when you consider all of the reasons to go back and finish, and there are so many reasons, but the final reason that I came up with in thinking about this is that there are so few things that you can control in life, whether it's on the job or in your family or any of these things. So what I'm finding in the craziness of this current place that we find ourselves with the economy and everything else that seems a little wacky right now, that this was something I could control. This was something that I could make happen. I can't make a lot of other things happen, but this I can, and it's in my hands. So when I think about everything being out of control and I think about this, it makes me feel good that this one thing is something that I can make happen. And so if that gives me a lot of comfort in the kind of the craziness, and because it's a positive thing, I'll come out of it with a good thing. So that is, I think, the number one reason that I feel, in 2.5 years, I'll be 2.5 years older, and I can be without the degree or with a degree, and with the degree is much, much better. And so I'll ride out the craziness and come out with that. So,
yeah. Angela, I know that you've embraced this program, but we've talked a lot about the specific BGS program, but as a BGS student, you're available to everything with the university. And I know that you had a special experience being an RA.
Oh, yes, I did. Well, I went back as a non-traditional student a few years ago and was an RA and lived in the dorm for the first time in my life, and I was 32. It was really intense and but very satisfying, and I think there was an impact both ways, me on them on me, and it was I just don't think age is a reason not to do something, even though you're looking at this and you're going, oh well, I'm going to be this much older than them, or as I mentioned earlier, that we walked into the library. My son and I brought my son with me one day. I had to do something in the library, and we walked in, and all these traditional students are in the library. And he said to me, Mom, does this make you feel old? And I said, yes, but that's not going to stop me. So I feel like this was, it's a good lesson for my family and for me to keep going, despite the fact that I am a non-traditional and sometimes I'm a little out of place, but that's okay.
Right. No, because a lot of BGS students may think that I just go into class and I leave, but UM is a community that you become a part of, so there are clubs that you can join, you can live in the dorms, you can do everything that a traditional student does, correct? All right. Okay. So with that in mind, I would like to say thank you to everyone for coming today, and thank you to our listeners for listening to this installment of the U Hour. You can find more about the BGS program at www.miami.edu/BGS degree. And I want to thank you to all of our special guests for coming. And I want to remind you all that it is the U, and it's all about you.